Itachi Shinden, Book of Bright Light Chapter 1 Part 4. Itachi stared at the older students, his own arms hanging loosely at his sides. If it came to that, he intended to get through this with a substitution technique that made use of cloning. His substitution technique was unconventional. Normally, the ninjas switched out their own body for a log with a tag attached immediately before an attack, in order to confuse their opponent. But rather than a log, Itachi's version used countless crows. He had come up with the idea when he was training with Shisui, and saw a flock of crows flying in the dense woods. If you used the usual log, the confusion effect on your opponent was meager. But the instant you switched out for crows, they flew off in all directions, so your opponent was surprised and bewildered, generating an opening that wasn't even on the same level as with the log. This was the first time he had tested it in an actual fight. Will it work? He planned to do it when one of the three thrust a kunai into Itachi's body. All four were taking shallow breaths. Both Itachi and Tenma and his gang were watching every move the other made. A tense silence rolled down the hallway. "Stop it!" The high-pitched shout of a girl shattered the quiet. Izumi appeared in front of Itachi. With both hands raised up high, she faced the older students. "I'm Uchiha too. But I have no intention of apologizing to you. I mean, it wasn't the Uchiha clan who summoned the Nine Tails." Tenma and his gang were taken aback at the sudden development. "The Uchiha clan lives in the village, too. People we care about died in that whole thing. That's why." Even from behind, Itachi could tell she was moved to tears. "Whoever did it isn't Uchiha." "Out of the way," Tenma said, with a grim look. "I'm not moving," Izumi shouted firmly. "Then you're also gonna." As he glared at Izumi, the look on Tenma's face changed suddenly. Hey, look at that." Katsura put a hand on Tenma's shoulder and pointed at Izumi's face with his free hand. "Let's the Sharingan," Agari muttered, his fear showing. "Let's get out of here," Tenma said, and the three turned and ran. "You all right?" Izumi turned to face him, round eyes burning a bright red. In the center of them, small circles floated up, with patterns like comma-shaped Magatama jewels on them. The most powerful visual technique, passed down through the Uchiha clan, the Sharingan. "Sorry for butting in," Izumi said, smiling, and the strength ran out of her body. Itachi ran over and caught her by the shoulders. Izumi passed out. It wasn't until after school that Izumi regained consciousness in the bed in the nurse's room. No sooner had she woken up than she was smiling, somewhat embarrassed, at Itachi, who had been by her side since classes ended for the day. "You didn't need me to put in." "I'm sorry," Izumi apologized, red all the way to the tips of her ears. "I didn't need you to?" "Well, I mean, you're Itachi. Someone like me's just in the way, right? You actually saved me." Maybe it was just like she said. But thanks to her eyes, the three older students had fled without doing anything. When I get mad, I get those eyes without even knowing it. "How did you activate it?" Itachi still hadn't activated the Sharingan. Apparently, the trigger was in the heart somehow, but even Shisui wouldn't teach him about it. Given that he had gone beyond the average ninja to master basically every skill, the fact that he hadn't awakened the Sharingan was a hard truth to bear. Izumi did it. He wanted to know how. "My dad died in Nine Tails' attack." This was the first he'd heard of that. Izumi's father would have been a member of the Uchiha clan. In which case, there was a strong possibility that he had worked under Itachi's father. But Itachi hadn't heard anything about any of his father's subordinates being killed in the line of duty. "Oh. My dad's not an Uchiha. My mom's Uchiha. After my dad died, we came back to the clan, and I became an Uchiha, too," Izumi told him, as if reading his mind. "Is there a connection between your father's death and the Sharingan?" "Yeah." Izumi sighed, and met Itachi's eyes. Her own had returned to normal. "I was there with my dad when he died. He died right in front of me. He was protecting me. Tears ran down her cheeks. It was like, if I just had more power, my dad wouldn't have had to die. During the funeral, and the whole time after that, I blamed myself. If only I had more power, I said. Looking as though she couldn't stand it, Izumi lowered her face. And then suddenly, something started throbbing inside my eyes. My chakra gradually collected there, and I fainted. When I woke up, my mom told me it was the Sharingan. I'm sorry to make you remember something so painful. No, it's all right. Don't worry about it. She smiled. He reached out his right hand. Confused, Izumi tilted her head to one side. He waited wordlessly until she pulled a slender hand out from under the blanket and slowly lifted it up. He grabbed onto her pale palm. Thanks. Izumi smiled slightly. Danzo tossed the white file onto the desk and looked at the subordinate standing before him, wearing a white tiger mask. Red shading stretched out to the sides from around the eye holes, slanted upwards as if expressing anger. Uchiha Itachi, The photo attached to the file showed the face of a still young boy. The eyes that stared back at Danzo, however, contained a strength that belied their owner's age. All involved assert that the Academy has never before witnessed such genius. He completed the graduation examination 4 months after he commenced his studies, and he is scheduled to graduate in the springtime of the next year. His gaze still on the file, Danzo listened to the excessive formality of his subordinate, and a smile crossed his lips. I can just see the different departments fighting to get him. Yes. Danzo lifted his weary hips from the chair. As the shadow behind the third Hokage, he had carried the burden of the village's darkness, but recently he had felt bitterly the weight of his own body. He wasn't so old that he knew death was upon him, but he was of an age to start thinking about his own life and the length of it. 10 years from now, 20 years from now, he would certainly die. And there was something he had to do before that happened. Cutting out the root of the evil that had been growing since the birth of the village of Konoha was Danzo's life's work. A prodigy not yet colored by anything. Danzo turned his gaze to the darkness visible beyond the window. The black void had fallen deathly silent, as if devouring the fleeting peace. For men who lived in times of war, the night, with its swirling air of murder, was something near and far. Well, let's meet him first. Although the Great War is over, we cannot yet say that the world is now totally at peace. Even now, there are those who struggle through difficult days because of the sad incident of 2 years past. So how do we break this down? As young ninja, this isn't someone else's problem. Today, we take our first step on the path of the ninja. In this chaotic world, it is most certainly not a peaceful path. But despite this, we vow it here. Ninja are precisely those who dare to advance down a difficult path. Ninja are those who push forward and endure. Using everything we have learned at the Academy, we will fulfill our duties as ninja of Konoha. Itachi read the scroll in a sonorous voice before slowly rolling it back up. And then he turned his gaze out over the sea of graduates and current students, guardians and teachers, below him. Valedictorian, Uchiha Itachi. His grades had all been nothing but perfect from the day he started school until his graduation. He had passed the graduation exam in his 4th month at school. Although there had been some exceptional graduates during the urgent days of the Great War, such as Hatake Kakashi, Itachi was the youngest post-war graduate and valedictorian. And thus, the curtain fell on his school days. There had apparently been all kinds of quarreling among the teachers about Itachi reading the formal reply as the valedictorian. The majority of the graduates were 12 years old. There were some who, like Itachi, had managed excellent grades and were younger graduates, but at 7, Itachi was indeed far too young. Even if he did have the grades, the thinking, and the ninja skills far beyond his 7 years, there was concern that he was simply too immature to hold up before the other graduates. And there was one more thing. There were complaints about the fact that Itachi had been born into the Uchiha clan, mainly from the teachers with lineages connected to the Senju clan. In the end, however, they bowed before his overwhelming abilities and grades, and the way he excelled in all things, despite the issue of his age and the prejudice toward the Uchihas. There could be no other valedictorian. Itachi walked through the schoolyard, petals of sakura blossoms fluttering through the air. Before him were 3 people. His father, mouth pulled down at the corners despite the felicitous nature of the occasion. His mother, smiling gently to greet him from the other side of his father. And his baby brother, whose recent mastery of his ability to walk delighted him to no end. His family. Spotting his big brother in the throngs of people coming and going, Sasuke opened his adorable round eyes wide. "Ita!" he cried in a clear voice. Their mother told him to call his big brother Itachi, but he still couldn't talk properly, so that turned into Ita. And seeing his little brother calling out so happily and tottering toward him, Itachi felt something overwhelming. He adores me unconditionally. And as his older brother, Itachi had to protect Sasuke unconditionally. His mother followed along behind the baby in his tottering steps and bright smile, hands outstretched to catch him. "Be careful, Sasuke," he called, calmly. And then Sasuke disappeared from his field of view. Someone stood between them, blocking his view. A man, a dark man. Itachi couldn't exactly put into words just what was dark about this man. Basically, everything about him was dark. "Are you Uchiha Itachi?" the man asked, looking down on him. The right side of his face was covered by bandages. He was clad in black, but his arm from his left shoulder was exposed, revealing the white robe he wore underneath. His left eye alone glared at Itachi. "I see." Unflinchingly, Itachi met the gaze of the man clouded in a sinister aura. Behind him, his mother grabbed the shoulders of Sasuke as the baby attempted to continue his stroll. "You are the bearer of bad luck." "Bad luck? They call chaos those lines," the man said, pointing at the lines running from Itachi's eyes down his cheeks. "Chaos will follow you throughout your life. The stain of a single drop falling on a clear day." Who exactly was this man? I have a question for the most talented genius ever to grace the halls of the academy. Itachi silently waited for the man to continue. 10 of our brethren have been shipwrecked. One of them has caught a nasty, infectious disease. If he is allowed to live, the other 9 will also get sick and die. If you were the captain of that ship, what judgment would you hand down? The question of why the man would ask Itachi something like that when they were meeting for the first time flitted through his mind. But in the next instant, he was offering a response, his own thoughts in simple words. "No matter what happens, the one who is sick is destined to die. If I were the captain, I would think that my first priority would be to save the lives of the other 9. I would choose to kill the one and save the 9. A bold smile crossed the man's face. A very unambiguous response. He moved toward Itachi. "I look forward to the day we meet again," he almost whispered as he passed the boy. Itachi felt the malicious echoes sully his heart with darkness. "Itachi." His mother came racing over, Sasuke in her arms. "What did he say?" his father asked, having come chasing after his mother at some point. "Nothing important." "Oh, really?" his father said, turning his eyes on the man's departing back. "Who is he?" "Shimura Danzo. He's a close aide of the 3rd. A dark shadow lurked in Fugaku's voice as he answered Itachi. "Chaos will follow you throughout your life." The words Danzo left lingering in the air became sharp thorns and pierced Itachi's heart. Placing a hand on his aching chest, Itachi stared at the man's back as he walked away, until it disappeared. End of Chapter 1. Thank you for listening. Remember to like and subscribe for lots more.